Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. So welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about the kidnapping of 11th-month-old Maria Jose Monroy Enciso. It is unbelievable how little coverage this case has, at least in the United States. I know that Maria's mother, Maribel, has done a handful of interviews in Mexico talking about what happened to her daughter, which is amazing. I am so happy that she is receiving coverage in Mexico, but I definitely want to help her out and do my part in spreading awareness on Maria's case and getting the word out in the United States. So hopefully this video reaches a lot of people and we can bring new eyes to Maria's case. So it's a very difficult case to talk about and to listen to, but at the same time it's a very important case to talk about, so hopefully you guys can stick around for the full video. Again, I just want to thank you guys so much for being here and for listening to Maria's story. If it wasn't for you guys watching these videos, I would not have the platform that I have. So again, thank you, mil gracias for being the best supporters ever. Also, I apologize if my voice is a little bit raspy. I was sick over the weekend, so I'm barely getting my voice back, but I definitely wanted to film this video, so I'm drinking water as I'm filming this, so hopefully my voice isn't too scratchy. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Let's jump right into today's video. Today's case takes place in the city of Tecamac, Mexico. On October 14, 2009, parents Maribel Enciso and Ivan Monroy gave birth to a beautiful little girl named Maria Jose Monroy Enciso. Both parents were extremely happy and excited about this new chapter of their life. Maribel loved being a mother and she was ready to raise Maria and watch her grow up to become a beautiful woman. Maria had a very cute and bold personality. She loved to follow her mother around and just wanted to be by her side no matter what. If Maribel would walk to the kitchen to make some food or to clean the dishes, Maria would be right behind her, following her, tugging at her pants, and she would just look up at her mom. Then after making some food or cleaning up the kitchen, Maribel would walk over to the living room, and once again, Maria would be right behind her, following along closely. Maria was just a very active child, and one of Maribel's favorite things to do with her daughter was to watch and sing to Disney movies, specifically to the movie Toy Story. So as Maribel was getting dinner ready or as she was cleaning up around the house, she would put Maria on a high chair and they would just have an amazing time watching Toy Story together. Maria also really loved to sleep. Ivan and Maribel say that Maria was a heavy sleeper. They would often have to shake her and wake her up just so that she could eat. That's how much she loved sleeping. She was just a very well-behaved child, and of course Maribel and Ivan absolutely adored their daughter. They were having such a great time raising her and watching her grow up. Everything was going great in their marriage, everything was going great in their family, and this is when they decided that now would be a good time to open up a business. Maribel was actually an optometrist, and she had always dreamed of opening her own optometry. So for a couple of months, Ivan and Maribel had been saving up enough money to open up her own store. And when Maria was 6 months old, they decided that that would be the perfect time to finally go through with the plan. They ended up renting a store in an area of Los Héroes, and at first Maribel was planning on taking Maria to a daycare. That way she could solely focus on the business. So she went to visit a couple of daycare facilities, but all of the teachers told her that they would only take Maria once she was a year old. And at this time, she was only 11 months. So Maribel had no other option but to bring her daughter to work with her. Of course, this wasn't the ideal situation, but she only had a couple of more months until she was a year old. So for now, she was going to be at the store with Maribel until she was old enough to finally go to the daycare. And the situation wasn't too bad. Of course, Maribel loved spending time with her daughter, and she was happy to have her daughter by her side the entire day. But of course, running a business and taking care of your child is a lot of work, especially if you're doing it at the same time. So oftentimes when Maribel would be busy with a patient or she would be busy running the store, Maria would be sitting in her high chair or she would be sitting in her stroller, playing with her toys or watching a movie. And honestly, Maria was a very well-behaved baby, so she wasn't fussing and she wasn't causing Maribel a lot of stress. She knew it wasn't the ideal situation, but Ivan had to go to work at his regular job. So it was just Maribel and Maria at the store by themselves every single day. Fast forward to September 21st, 2010. Maribel was working at the optometry with her 11th-month-old daughter Maria by her side. Their day started off pretty normal. Maribel attended a couple of patients while at the same time taking care of Maria. Their day ran smoothly, and by 5 p.m., Maribel was getting ready to close up shop. She closed the doors behind her, and she was carrying Maria as she was walking around the store, gathering her belongings and just making sure that everything was locked up and ready for closing. As she was doing this, a man riding a bike pulled up to the front door. He knocked on the door and he asked Maribel if he could come inside. Maribel looked at this man and she was a bit hesitant. It was 5 p.m. and she was ready to close down her business, so she wasn't too eager to let the man inside. However, she soon realized that she actually knew this man. She recognized him. A week earlier, this man had come into the store and had requested an eye exam. Maria did his eye exam and he told her that he would be back in a couple of weeks to order some glasses. So she asked him, "What do you need?" And he told her that he was here to order some eyeglasses. Now, since Maribel had attended to this man before, she decided to let him inside the store. The man walks inside the store and immediately closes the doors behind him. Then he turns around and just stares at Maribel. Maribel says that in this moment, she knew that something bad was about to happen. Before she could react, this man pulled out a knife and threatened Maribel. He told her that this was a robbery. He began to threaten Maribel and told her that if she didn't give up her belongings, he was going to hurt her and her baby. So of course, Maribel complied. She gave him her cell phone, her keys, her wallet, anything. She said, "Just take whatever you want, but please don't hurt me and don't hurt my baby." And even though Maribel was complying, this man was still aggressive towards her. He began hitting her and punching her, and he was just being so aggressive. As he was hitting her, he told Maribel that she needed to put her daughter on the chair next to him. Because remember, at this point, Maribel was still holding her baby. Even though he was punching her and attacking her and doing all these aggressive things towards her, she had never once let go of her baby. But at this point, she was scared. The man was holding a knife and told Maribel that if she didn't do exactly what he said, he was going to kill her daughter. So because she feared for her life and she feared for her daughter's life, she decided to listen to him. And I really hope that people don't judge her for this. I know people are gonna say, "Oh, if I was Maribel, I would have fought back, or I would have done this, or I would have done that." And of course, it's easier to say that, but in the moment when you're actually experiencing this, some people absolutely freeze. They can tell themselves that they would fight back and that they would never give up their child. But until you're in that moment, you really have no idea how you would react. She feared for her life. It was literally just herself, this man, and Maria inside the store by themselves. And this was around 5 p.m., so all of the shops next to her had already closed down. There was no one that she could run to for help. There was no one that she could call. So she put Maria down on the chair next to her, and then this man walks behind the counter, stands behind Maribel, and stabs her in the neck. And she tried to fight back. She was trying to defend herself. But unfortunately, this man decided to slit her throat. And then Maribel fell to the ground. She was bleeding heavily and she knew that she was about to pass out. But before this happened, Maribel was able to see the man walk over to the counter, grab a computer, put it inside his backpack, and then walk over to grab Maria. He picks Maria up and then he leaves the store. She just saw this man kidnap her daughter. At this point, Maribel told herself that she couldn't die. She knew that she needed to survive because she was the only witness to this attack. She was the only one that knew that her daughter had been kidnapped and that saw the person's face that did this. She needed to survive so that she could go get help and then go find her daughter. So somehow Maribel found the strength to sit up and crawl outside of the store. She made it to the sidewalk and that's when she began asking for help. A couple of the employees working nearby came out and immediately began to help Maribel. They called 911 and as they were waiting for the ambulance to arrive, a couple of the neighbors actually made a tourniquet and they placed it over her wound to try to help stop the bleeding. But of course, her injuries were bad. It was a very frightful scene. I mean, just imagine witnessing this. This woman comes crawling out of her store with a bloody neck and is asking for help. People were traumatized by this, but they were doing whatever they could to help stop the bleeding and, help save her life. Maribel was in and out of consciousness, but she remembers looking up and seeing a police officer standing above her. And she remembers seeing the police officer telling the people to stop helping her. He was shooing the people away from her, and in her head, she was thinking, oh my goodness, this police officer thinks that I'm dead. That's why he's telling people to stop helping me, because he thinks that I no longer need help because I'm dead. She knew that she had to show some sign of life, so somehow she gathered up the strength again to get up and tell the officer, hey, I'm alive and my daughter was just kidnapped. Of course, she wasn't shouting this because her throat had just been cut. So she was quietly saying this and she was straining her voice. But again, she was using every little bit of strength that she had left to tell this officer about her daughter's kidnapping. The officer looked at her, and instead of running over to her to try to help her or, try to make the situation seem urgent, which it was, he simply told Maribel that his radio wasn't working. Even if his radio actually wasn't working, he could have at least ran to another officer to let them know about Maria's kidnapping. He could have grabbed his phone, or he could have grabbed someone else's phone to notify people about this. But no, instead of making this seem like an urgent situation, he simply told Maribel that his radio wasn't working. I cannot imagine how Maribel was feeling in that moment. Of course, she's already suffering with her injuries and probably traumatized from the attack and from everything that just happened. But imagine literally telling a police officer that your daughter has just been abducted and them not doing anything about it. Anyways, eventually an ambulance arrives and they immediately rush Maribel to the hospital. While Maribel is in the hospital getting treated for her injuries, police are investigating the scene and are trying to figure out what happened. They're speaking to the employees nearby to see if they witnessed anything. They're speaking to witnesses that were passing by on the street. They're just trying to figure out what actually happened. So as the officers were going around and investigating the scene, that's when they realized that 11th-month-old Maria Jose was missing. Not only that she was missing, but that she had been abducted. So police start looking around the area to see if there's any sign of Maria or if there's any sign of the abductor. But unfortunately, it was too late. The man and Maria were now long gone. Maribel was rushed to the hospital, and once the doctors saw her injuries, they truly believed that Maribel was most likely going to die. This man had stabbed her in the neck multiple times, and he had slit her throat. He had cut her throat so deep that it almost cut her vocal cords. It was going to be a tough fight, and she was going to have to go through an intense surgery. And if she did survive this, doctors believed that she would most likely never be able to speak again. It was just a very difficult surgery, and once they had completed their operation, they sent Maribel into an intensive care unit, and now all they had to do was wait. Just wait and see if she would wake up and see if she would have her voice back. While Maribel was in a coma, police were focused on the investigation and were doing whatever they could to find Maria. Of course, as with many child abduction cases, police immediately began looking at the family. Now, since the mother had been brutally attacked and was in the hospital with all of these grave injuries, police only had one other person to look towards: Ivan Monroy, the husband of Maribel and the father of Maria Jose. Now, even though they had a very happy and loving marriage, police were wondering if maybe there was something else going on. Maybe their marriage wasn't perfect. Maybe they had some deep, dark secret that led to Maria's abduction. So the police went and they spoke to Ivan, and he denied all of these allegations. He told police that he was at work the entire day, and he also provided his time card. He provided witnesses that could prove that he was at work all day long. I mean, he was willing to give them any piece of evidence that could prove to them that he was at work. He told police that he loved his wife, he loved his daughter, and that he would never do anything to hurt them. And what he was telling police was true. He actually was at work during the attack, and there were multiple witnesses that placed him at work. However, police clearly had tunnel vision, and they didn't want to give up interrogating Ivan. They wanted to place the blame on Ivan, and they were coming up with all of these ridiculous theories and rumors as to why Ivan would do this. They first accused him of having an affair and told him that he probably wanted to get rid of his daughter and get rid of his wife so that he could go live with his mistress and not have to worry about his family. They were telling Ivan all of this even though there was no proof that an affair was even happening. So then they told him that if he wasn't the one that was having an affair, maybe Maribel was having an affair. And maybe Ivan found out about this and he got angry, so he decided to abduct their daughter out of revenge and kill Maribel. I mean, they were coming up with all of these ridiculous theories and rumors that were so harmful towards Ivan and to the family. I mean, imagine being in his position. Imagine finding out that your wife was brutally attacked and was currently in the hospital fighting for her life. And at the same time that your daughter was abducted and was still missing. And before you can even begin to process all of this, police are in your face interrogating you and coming up with all of these ridiculous allegations. I just feel so bad for Ivan and for the rest of the family. Some of his family members were actually going on TV and asking people to stop the rumors. They were asking people to have a heart and have compassion. All of these rumors were hurting the family. And instead of people focusing on Maria and focusing on Maribel, people were solely focusing on Ivan. And I 100% understand that police need to investigate every single avenue. And of course, they always have to investigate the family because in most child abduction cases, a family member is most likely always involved. So I understand why they had to investigate Ivan and investigate other family members, but if there is literal proof that Ivan was at work during the attack, police should have just dropped it, and instead of spending all their time focusing on Ivan, they could have spent their time focusing on other suspects and focusing on other avenues. It's just really unfortunate that they wasted so much crucial time focusing on the dad. An entire week had now passed since Maria was last seen, and as they were going through the investigation, police received a call from the hospital with shocking news. Maribel was awake. She was alive and she had survived this brutal attack. She was awake now and she was asking for her daughter and for her husband. So police headed over to the hospital to speak to Maribel, and the first thing she asked them was, "Where is my daughter?" And that's when police had to tell her that unfortunately Maria was still missing. Of course, this broke Maribel's heart and she asked the police where her husband was. And that's when they had to tell her that her husband was actually down at the station and that he was their #1 suspect in the investigation. And Maribel says that when she heard those words, she completely lost her mind. She could not believe that police had wasted an entire week investigating her husband. She just couldn't believe it, and unfortunately, she couldn't speak in that moment because her throat was still recovering from the surgery. She asked the police to hand her a piece of paper and a pen. They gave her the items, and that's when she began writing down everything that happened. She told them about the man, about the bike, about the knife, about the attack, about the abduction, everything. And she told police that she remembered exactly what this man looked like. So on the piece of paper, she wrote down a clear description of the man and confirmed to police that it was not her husband. And once police read this information, they immediately released Ivan and began looking for the true abductor. At the time, Amber Alerts did not exist in Mexico. So for now, police had to solely rely on the media and on the community for help. The police made a public statement and they were asking people to come forward with any information that could help them find Maria. But unfortunately, no one did. There were no witnesses that saw the abduction, that saw the man. There were no cameras in the store. There were no cameras in the street. There was nothing. All police had was the sole testimony of Maribel. Unfortunately, an entire month would go by without any serious movement in the case. That was until October of 2010. This is when a 32-year-old man named Cesar Crespo Garcia was arrested in Tultitlán, Mexico. And this man wasn't arrested because he had abducted Maria. He was arrested because he had raped a 14-year-old girl. I know, it's just disgusting, and this man is just absolutely terrible. Literally just reading about him made me feel sick because this man has done some terrible things. So yes, this man had raped a 14-year-old girl, and her mother had come forward and pressed charges against Cesar. He was arrested, and as police were booking him, a couple of the officers noticed that he somewhat resembled the description that Maribel had given of the man that had attacked her. He had the same skin color, the same eyes, the same hair, the same height. So they decided to take a photo of Cesar and show it to Maribel to see if she could confirm that this was her attacker. And she did. Maribel looked at the photo of Cesar and she immediately recognized him as her attacker and as a man that had kidnapped her 11-month-old daughter. As Cesar is sitting in jail waiting to be prosecuted for the rape of the 14-year-old girl, police begin to question him about the abduction of Maria Jose. And strangely enough, he admits to everything. anything. He 100% fully confessed to attacking Maribel and kidnapping Maria. So, according to him, this is what happened the day that he abducted Maria. He walked into Maribel's store, he brutally attacked her, he picked up Maria, and then he took Maria back to his parents' home, which was about 20 minutes away from the store. When he got to his parents' house, he told his parents that Maria was his own child. I know, he literally told his parents that this was his child and that he was going to be taking care of her from now on. Of course, his parents were hesitant. They had no idea that their son had a baby. I mean, this was just the most random and out of the blue news. So they were a bit hesitant, but Hesed tried to calm them down, and he told them that he had gotten a girl pregnant and that this girl was a drug addict and was no longer able to take care of the baby. So now he was going to step up and raise their child. Again, the parents were a bit hesitant. They honestly doubted him, but what could they really do? They weren't going to turn away a baby, so they brought the baby inside the house and began helping to take care of her. And for a while, Hesed's parents believed him. They believed that this was actually their son's baby. But one day, they were watching TV, and that's when they saw Maribel on the news speaking about Maria's abduction. She was holding up a photo asking people to be on the lookout for her missing daughter. And when the parents saw the photo on the screen, they immediately realized that they were now in possession of Maria Jose. They had this woman's baby inside their house. This baby had been abducted by their own son. And what they did next honestly confuses me. I truly wish they had made a different decision, but instead of calling the police or calling Maribel and trying to reunite this baby with their true mother, they just decided to kick Hesed out of the house. That's it. They told him that they knew the truth about Maria, that they knew that this wasn't his daughter, and that they wanted nothing to do with this. So Hesed gathered his belongings, and then him and Maria left the house. Listen, I don't understand why they did this. It just makes me so angry to know that they literally had Maria in their possession. They could have just taken Maria to the hospital and left her there, or they could have taken her to the police station, or they could have just taken her directly to Maribel. But no, they just decided to kick Maria and Hesed out of the house. To me, it's just absolutely crazy, and it makes me so upset because this case could have been solved so quickly. So after Hesed left his parents' house, he was kind of hopping from house to house. At one point, he was staying with his aunt and uncle, then he would go stay with his cousin, and he was just kind of hopping around houses. But in the end, he decided to take Maria to an apartment that he had been renting for some time. They got to this apartment, and Hesed says that in that moment, he realized that this needed to stop. He knew that he wouldn't be able to take care of a child on his own. And instead of doing the right thing and returning Maria to her family and ending this chaos, he decided to kill Maria, wrap her in a blanket, and throw her body in a river. So police are listening to his confession, and they decide to send divers into the river to look for Maria's body. They end up finding the body of 2 adult men, but they don't find the body of a little girl. They also don't find the blanket that Maria was wrapped in. So when police learn this, they're a bit confused. They say that they would have found some type of evidence that proved that Maria had been inside that river. Whether it's a piece of her clothing or a piece of the blanket, they just would have found something to prove that Maria had been inside that river, but they literally found nothing. So because of this, police believe that Hesed was lying. They don't believe that his confession is true. Police go to speak with Hesed's family to see if maybe they can provide some helpful information. Maybe Hesed told them where he was planning on taking Maria. However, Hesed's family refused to speak. The parents did not want to answer any questions, they didn't want to make any statements, and they just didn't want to be involved in the investigation. They said that they wanted to avoid problems and that they didn't want to help out. So after failing to speak with Hesed's family and get any useful information out of them, police decide to head over to Hesed's apartment and try to find any type of clue. And when they get inside his apartment, they find some pretty shocking evidence. They see that the entire apartment is filled with baby supplies. They're talking baby clothes, baby food, diapers. I forget how to say it in English. What's it called? Like bottles, baby formula. And this supplies wasn't just enough for Maria. This supplies was enough for multiple babies of each gender. So not just for a girl. This supplies was also for a boy. So police look at all of this evidence and they begin to put the puzzle pieces together. And in the end, they come to the conclusion that Hesed Crespo Garcia is lying. He didn't kill Maria. Instead, he sold her in an illegal adoption. That's just what makes the most sense. And police believe that Hesed was wasn't acting alone. I mean, how could he? Remember, when he arrived to the store, he was riding a bike. So how was he able to ride a bike while carrying a baby and also carrying a computer? It just seems like that would be very difficult to balance, and it was a 20-minute bike ride back home. So police believe that maybe he didn't ride his bike back home, but instead he had someone helping him. Maybe someone had parked a car around the corner and they were waiting for him to help him escape. So besides that factor, police also took into account all of the baby supplies. I mean, why would this guy have all of this baby food? Why would he have all of these baby clothes, all of these diapers, all of these toys? All of the supplies just made police believe that this wasn't the first time that he had done this. He could be part of an organization that traffics children and then illegally sells them in an adoption. It seems like he frequently kidnaps kids, takes them back to his apartment, takes care of them until they're ready to be adopted or moved to a new location. Another factor that caught police's attention is the fact that Haysad had this apartment by himself, and Haysad didn't really have a good job. He would stand on the corner of the street and he would offer to wash people's cars. So of course that is a job, but it's not a job that would give you enough money for you to be able to pay for an apartment by yourself. So police are wondering how he had this money. Maybe he had this money because he was a part of this organization and he received money for all of the children that he kidnapped and helped provide for the organization. All of this evidence combined led police to the same conclusion. Maria Jose was still alive and was most likely now living with a different family. Not only did police believe this theory, but Maria's own family also believed this. Maribel knew that Haysad's confession was a complete lie. She could feel that her daughter was still alive. And once she started looking back at her first interaction with Haysad, she began to notice some odd behavior. When he first went to the store to request an eye exam, Maribel says that he was acting very odd and that he was looking around the store. It seemed like he was trying to analyze every aspect of the space, and at one point he was staring at Maria. He locked eyes with Maria, and now that Maribel looks back at that, she thinks that he had planned this. He saw that Maribel was working at the store alone and that she had a young child with her. He was analyzing the store to see if there were any cameras for security, and once he scoped the place out, he decided to come back a week later and execute the attack. So he planned this. Now, at first, Haysad was only going to be sentenced to 18 years in prison, and this was for the attempted murder of Maribel. So he wasn't even going to be prosecuted for the rape of the 14-year-old girl, which to me is crazy. I don't understand why that happened, but in the end, thankfully, he was prosecuted for the attempted murder of Maribel, for the abduction of Maria, and for the rape of the 14-year-old girl. So in the end, Haysad Crespo Garcia was sentenced to 82 years in prison. So he will be behind bars for the rest of his life. Now, after he was prosecuted and sentenced, Maribel wanted to go speak with him in person. She wanted to look this man in the eyes and ask him where her daughter was. So Maribel and Ivan headed over to the prison and spoke directly to Haysad. Maribel says that this interaction was very strange. The entire time she talked to him, Haysad refused to look up, he refused to look her directly in the face, and he refused to speak. She would ask him, "Where is my daughter? What did you do to her?" And he just wouldn't say anything back. And now he's refusing to talk to Maribel. He told the lawyers that he no longer would like to receive her as a visitor and that he would no longer like to speak to her. I cannot imagine how Maribel and the family feels. The man that attacked you and kidnapped your daughter is in prison and he will be there for the rest of his life. And yet he refuses to tell you the truth. I mean, at this point, Maribel doesn't understand what this man is afraid of. Is he afraid of the organization he works for? You know, maybe this organization has threatened him or has threatened his family. And that's why he refuses to speak out, because he's scared. But at the same time, he's literally going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So she doesn't understand why he just won't speak out and let her have this closure and let her be reunited with her daughter. Now, I did read a couple of articles that stated that 2 witnesses saw Haysad and Maria out in public. These witnesses saw Haysad hand Maria over to another woman. Then this woman and Maria got on a bus and headed over to Guanajuato, Mexico. And when the witnesses saw this was 2 days after Haysad says that he allegedly killed Maria. So because of these witness statements, we know that Maria is still alive. We know that he didn't kill her because he was literally seen out with her in public 2 days after he claims it happened. And since this woman was getting on a bus with Maria headed to Guanajuato, Mexico, this heavily backs up police's theory that he did sell her for an illegal adoption. We're not really sure if this woman is the new mother that adopted Maria or if she's just another person that works for the organization. Maybe she was just taking Maria to Guanajuato as part of the plan. We don't really have all of the details, but all police know is that Maria is still alive. However, she could be anywhere in the world by now. They don't believe that she would still be in Mexico, so she could either be in the United States, she could have gone to Canada, or she really could have gone anywhere. They most likely changed her name, changed her hair color, and obviously Maria was only 11 months old when she was abducted. So there's no way that she would know that this new reality that she's living is false. She has no idea that her parents are not her true parents, and that her real mother and father are out there searching for her day after day. For years, there was very little movement in the case of Maria Jose until July of 2017. This is when police received a phone call about an abused child in Hermosillo, Mexico. Police arrived to the scene and they rescued a 7-year-old girl who was covered in bruises and cuts all over her face, back, and feet. They rushed this little girl to the hospital and it turns out that she had been abused for some time now. I don't want to include a photo of the young girl because it is very graphic and it can be triggering, but as soon as the media got a hold of the story, they began publishing her photo online. And this is when some people began to note the resemblance between the young girl and Maria Jose. People felt like this is exactly what Maria Jose would look like if she was 7 years old. So people started sending this photo to Maribel and were letting her know that maybe her daughter was in Hermosillo, Mexico, and that she was currently in the hospital. Maribel says that she could somewhat see the resemblance between the 7-year-old girl and between her daughter Maria, but again, this young girl was 7 years old, so no one really knows how Maria Jose would look like at that age. So Maribel was a little bit hopeful, but she was also a little bit hesitant. But again, she wanted to investigate every single avenue, so her and her husband immediately flew to Hermosillo, Mexico, and they requested that a DNA test be made between them and the young girl. Maribel posted about this on Facebook and told her followers to be patient. She understood that everyone was very eager to see if the test came back as a match and, to see if this young girl was in fact Maria Jose. Maribel was so happy to have all of the support, but she reminded people that DNA tests do take a long time, so everyone needed to be patient. And then a couple days later, the DNA results came back, and they came back as not a match. This young girl was not Maria Jose. Of course, Maribel and her family were heartbroken by this because they had hopes that this might be their daughter. So this did hurt them, but at the same time, they were happy that this young girl had been rescued and, that now she was going to get the help and treatment that she needed and hopefully be placed in the care of a loving family member. So of course they were happy that the girl was saved, and if anything, this motivated them to continue to push forward, go back to Tecamac, and continue searching for their daughter. Now as for the 7-year-old girl, her wounds and injuries were treated and she was eventually placed in the care of her grandmother, who actually did care for her and did provide her with a lot of love. It turns out that her parents had emotionally and physically abused her for years. Thankfully, both parents were arrested and hopefully they will spend the rest of their lives behind bars. It has now been 12 years since Maria was last seen by her family. Today, she would now be 11 years old, which is just absolutely crazy. I cannot believe that 12 years have gone by without any answers and without any closure. 12 years have gone by with Maria living a different life, living in a different country, a different state, and with a different family. And she has no idea that her true parents are out there searching for her. What's crazier is that the person that's responsible for this, the person that knows what happened to Maria and who she's with, refuses to speak. He's literally sitting behind bars today and just doesn't want to tell the truth about what happened to her. It's incredibly frustrating for Maribel, but she says that she will never give up. She knows that her daughter is still out there. She knows that her daughter is still alive and that one day they will be reunited. I was reading an interview with Maribel and she was telling the reporter that she never plans on having kids again. She says that it's too painful, it's too hard for her, and it wouldn't be fair for the child. all of her attention, energy, and strength right now is dedicated to finding Maria. She says that it would be wrong to have a child because she knows that she wouldn't be able to give it the attention it needs. Until she finds Maria, she says that her life won't be complete. Just reading that makes me so emotional and makes me want to cry because look at the aftermath that he has created. Not only did he steal a child from her mother and send her off to live with strangers, he now has caused all of this hurt and heartbreak to Maribel and to the family. I mean, Maribel doesn't even want to have another child because she's so focused on finding her daughter. It's just so unfair that Maria was only 11 months old and she was taken from her family so soon. If you go on the Facebook page or you go on YouTube and you look up interviews of Maribel, I swear you guys will cry because this woman is so incredibly strong. She goes out there and she goes on these TV shows, she goes on these channels and she talks about the brutal attack and about how she had to lay there bleeding and watching her child get abducted. I honestly don't understand how she does it. How does she find the strength to continue going? I was actually reading an article about how cases like these can affect the families emotionally and physically. When someone loses a child, it can cause them to have depression, anxiety, stress, and a handful of other emotional issues. But people seem to forget that this can also cause you physical harm. It takes a toll on you physically to wake up every single day and not know what happened to your child. Maribel says that Ivan ended up developing diabetes because of all of the stress, and she ended up developing IBS because of all of the stress. So this has taken a physical and emotional toll on the both of them. I was also reading about how other parents of missing children have developed even more serious issues. Some parents have developed cancer. Some parents have developed tumors. I mean, some parents stop taking care of themselves. They forget to eat. They forget to sleep. They forget to shower. I mean, taking care of themselves is their last priority. Every single day they just wake up hoping that this will be the day that they find their child. And this is what a lot of people have told Haysad. A couple of news reporters have even made direct statements to Haysad, letting him know that he is a terrible person and that he is causing so much harm to Maribel and Ivan. It's just really sad to think about all of the pain that these families go through. And what's worse is that Haysad knows that he has caused this. People have told Haysad that he has literally ruined Maribel and Ivan's life, but he just doesn't care. He doesn't care that he also ruined his parents' life. He doesn't care that he also ruined his own life. And Maribel hopes that one day he will find a peace in his heart that will inspire him to do the right thing, to come forward and just finally tell the truth. Now, at the start of the investigation, police were eager to find Maria, but after a while, the momentum started to go down, and Maribel would constantly call the police asking them for an update on her daughter's disappearance or, asking them to follow up a new lead. But honestly, police didn't really seem to care. Maribel was scared that her daughter's case was going to lose traction, so she knew that she couldn't count on the authorities, and instead, she turned to social media for help. She created a Twitter page, a Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube channel, a WhatsApp group. Maribel created a page on any platform you can think of, and I highly recommend that you check out all of her pages. That way you can stay posted on the investigation and show her some support and some love. But she has turned to social media for help, and it's been working. She's doing an amazing job at keeping her daughter's story out there and letting people know that she is still looking for Maria. She needs the public's help in spreading her daughter's story and sharing her photo with as many people as possible. Besides going on social media for help, Maribel has done countless interviews on television. All of the interviews are in Spanish, but if you would like to watch them, I will also link them down below for you guys to check out. I honestly just admire Maribel so much, and I want to help her out as much as I can. So hopefully this video does reach a lot of people and more people can become aware of what happened to Maria and hopefully lead to some answers. If you guys could please share her flyer and share the social media pages and, just keep people talking about Maria's case, that would be absolutely amazing. I would greatly appreciate it, and I know Maribel would too. Maria could be your sibling. She could be your classmate, your friend, your neighbor, your cousin. She could be anybody now, and it's so important for her to find out the truth and be reunited with her true family. So if you notice someone that has a child but was never pregnant, or if you notice something suspicious, please come forward and let the police know. Any information is helpful, whether it's big or small. I feel like you should always follow your gut, and if your gut tells you that something seems suspicious, definitely think you should follow through and just let the police know. At the time of her disappearance, Maria was taking medication for some seizures she was having, so she could still be taking that medication now. She also has a half half-moon shaped scar on her right hand, and when she runs or gets flustered, a red rash appears on her forehead. Here is an age-progressed image of how Maria would look like now, and again, please share this flyer and help spread the word. Maribel is also asking for Haysed's family and friends to speak out. If you know Haysed and you may know of where he took Maria, or of where he would have taken her, please just let the police know. You can leave an anonymous tip, so if you are scared about that, just know that it will remain anonymous. Maria will soon be a teenager, and soon she will be on social media. So hopefully she comes across Maribel's Facebook page, or she comes across this video, or someone else's video, and realizes the truth. My thoughts and prayers go out to Maribel, to Ivan, to Maria, and to the entire family. I am so sorry that this incredibly cruel and unfair thing happened to your family, and I truly hope that you all are reunited soon and you guys can have some type of closure. There is a $150,000 reward, so please, if you know anything, call the number on the screen. I want to end the video with the statement that Maribel made towards her daughter Maria. She says, "Sooner or later, you are going to realize that you don't belong to that family, that you don't look like any of them, and then you are going to start doubting them. That's why I'm here. I'm looking for you. Whether I find you or you find me, one day we're going to see each other again." Oh my goodness, that statement is just so powerful, and I know I've said this so many times throughout the video, but this is one of the most emotional and just heartbreaking cases I've done in a long time. But with that is all the information I have for today's video. Thank you guys again so much for being here and for listening to Maria's story. I would love to know your thoughts about this case down below, and make sure to go check out all of Maribel's social media pages, which will be linked in the description box down below. Again, I'm sorry if I sounded a bit monotone in today's video. My throat is really raspy, and even just making this kind of strained it a little bit, so sorry if my voice was a little bit raspy, but I promise in my next video I will be much better. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!